In this video, I'd like to talk to you about how having a child with additional needs has completely changed my life. I want to take you back 3, maybe 4 years ago, and my son was approaching 2 years old. So typically in the UK, around about that time, you are called for like a 2-year review to see whether your child has met their milestones. Leading up to that appointment, things were going through my mind in terms of, okay, my youngest, he's my third child, but he's not saying things like mama or dada. He's totally dependent on me. He can't really do anything. But again, I was thinking, well, he's not even 2 yet. Let me give him some more time. But I always had that thought in the back of my mind that, okay, maybe he's developing a little slower. So myself and my oldest child, we took my son to the clinic and we spoke to the health visitor. And when she went through the various stages, you have to fill in a questionnaire about your child, about the particular things that they can do quite easily and that they may find challenging. However, after that hour's assessment, she was of the view that, yes, okay, we may need to look into possibly getting him diagnosed, and that was at the tender age of 2 years old. My son is now approaching 5 and he has not had a formal diagnosis yet. Things that I noticed that made me think that, okay, he's possibly developing a little later. And obviously I could only compare him to my older 2 children. Things like weaning, refusing foods. He was a very good drinker of milk. There was absolutely no issue with breastfeeding, and then obviously the transitioning onto formula and then trying to wean him onto sort of soft foods, things of that nature. He did take to some things like mashed potato and yogurt, but when I started to introduce foods that had maybe colour in, so for example carrots, or I wanted to give him fruits, strawberries for example, there was just that refusal. And that continued to date actually. My son is an extremely picky eater, to a point now where he only really eats like the wheat bisques, hot milk and a little bit of honey. He may have snacks in terms of biscuits, but his main diet is those wheat bisques. And as a parent, it is worrying because that nutrients are important, food is important, but I'm now of the mindset that I will not force my son to eat. I will offer him choices. He'll have his safe foods, absolutely, he'll have that no matter what. And even when we go out, I make sure that I have a thermal flask with hot milk, I have his wheat biscuits and what he needs just in case he doesn't want to eat anything. If we're eating something different, I allow him to play in my food. The others don't like that so much, but I just want to give him that freedom and that opportunity to explore, to touch, even to lick and to put back. I absolutely do not mind. I'm also finding that toilet training is particularly challenging, even now approaching 5 years old. He's at the stage where he doesn't like the feeling of when he uses his nappy, and he very sort of often takes it off. Even when he's done like a number 2 and it's in his nappy, he will take off his tracksuit bottoms or his shorts and he'll take off the nappy because he just can't stand the feeling. Now for me, that's a cue that maybe he's ready to start toilet training. And I did use the summer where he wasn't at school, I used that as a great opportunity to start introducing him to using the toilet, just leaving him to roam the house without anything on, in terms of a nappy, and putting him on the toilet at regular intervals. He is not toilet trained. I'm not under the illusion that he will be potty trained or toilet trained anytime soon. But for me, I'm picking up on his cues, and I do understand that toilet training is going to take a little bit longer. Thankfully, my son has an EHCP that I'm completely in agreement with. We've had no issues compiling that or obtaining that legal agreement. In there, the special school was named. He started at that special school a couple of days ago and he's doing really, really well. He even tried a bit of pie yesterday with some sweet corn. The school sends me pictures of him, and I just think it was the best thing getting him into, that special school. I've also had meltdowns. Oh goodness. Yeah, meltdowns. And I think now, again, I'm at the stage where I know it's going to happen. So I'm preparing myself mentally that, Karina, just get on with it. It's something that he needs to do. Yes, it may be particularly worrying for a stranger, a member of the public who is not aware of what is going on. And that's why, when I do take him out, I take pride in making sure he is visible to everyone. He will wear his sunflower lanyard on his pushchair that he has. I call it his disability pushchair because it's so large. He has another lanyard on there. He's got a sign on there that says that please treat this as a disability chair. It cannot be folded down. I'm making sure that he is visible. But actually, I think that the more that we talk about autism, the more that we talk about additional needs and the challenges that our children have, the more that the general public will get to understand. Because what I'm finding now, sort of mid 2025, is that yes, I may get the odd stare, but not so much. Or maybe it was just my anxiety in the earlier days where I thought, oh no, I can't take him out because if he has a meltdown, people are going to stare at me, that person's staring at me. I mean, they may just glance because they're seeing a young child crying, but what's so unusual about that, right? And also because as a parent, I'm not panicking, I'm not embarrassed. If he's having a meltdown, I just let him have a meltdown. It's just part and parcel of who he is. And I think when other people see that I'm quite calm about it, they're just going about their day. But absolutely, it does happen. I just ensure if he's not in his pushchair, if, for example, we're out at a restaurant or somewhere else, that he is safe, because he can get into a state where, he's just flapping his arms, he's moving his head, his feet, he doesn't want anyone to touch him. So I'm making sure that his surroundings are safe for him. And then I take my cue from there to calm him down, to talk to him, to try and touch him. And I also noticed that just through experience that he loves me singing nursery rhymes. He loves head, shoulders, knees and toes. And I have to stand there and do the actions, just to kind of gain his attention. And to be honest with you, that shame and embarrassment has absolutely left at that point. My priority is just making sure that my son is going to be okay. I also just want to give you an example about a conversation and just possible misconceptions from other people that they may have about a child with additional needs or an autistic child. So I had a conversation with a friend who I haven't spoken to, it must be going on over a year. And yes, there's still a friend, we may message each other, but I'm talking about a full-blown conversation. And I was speaking to him about the needs that my youngest child has, and I just said, my son is non-verbal, he's non-speaking. And my friend was like, well, how old's your son now? And I said, he's nearly 5. And the first thing that they said to me was, don't worry, he'll speak soon. And I was quite taken aback by that. I wasn't upset. I was just kind of like, that's a strange thing to say, considering you don't know what I'm going through on a daily basis. You don't really know the ins and outs. And actually, I took that opportunity to explain to him calmly exactly what that means. And we were then on the phone for over an hour. And once I had sort of concluded everything and spoke about the daily challenges for my son, not so much for me, but for my son, and how those challenges present in society, let's just say my friend was taken aback. They were like, Karina, I didn't realize, I see you as a successful woman, a businesswoman, a mother of 3, and you present like your life is just perfect, your life is rosy. And I said, well, there shouldn't be too much judgments here, no assumptions. But actually that made me think twice, to be honest, when they said that, because I'm on this YouTube channel and I'm trying to encourage you as parents and carers to talk to me, have someone to talk to. And actually, with my friend saying that, it made me think, well, Karina, yeah, you should be reaching out to other people, not just like on a professional level, just to anyone, let them know what's going on. It may not be come and help me. And I think for me, it's not that. It's just, a problem shared is a problem half. That kind of cliche, really, isn't it? It's about me finding time for myself, and actually, as well as prioritizing my son's needs, at the same time, it's prioritizing my mental health and my well-being, because actually after that conversation, which was really difficult because my son was sort of running up and down, he was screaming in the background because, when you have a conversation on the telephone, they don't like it. They're particularly animated at that point, aren't they? But, I got through the conversation. My friend was obviously very understanding, etc. And yeah, it just made me think that I need to make time for myself. And even if that's like sending a voice message to someone, even if it's just calling someone to say, hey, how are you? And getting some things off my shoulders, we really need to prioritize ourselves as parents and carers. Some of you may be aware, I've spoken about this before, the trauma I think that I still have with me, I think just being naive about the education system. When my son was approaching an age where, he was going to nursery, I picked the nearest nursery to me, because for me, that was standard. As I said, I'm parenting similarly to how I parented my older 2 children. So my son got to an age, we were ready to get him sent into nursery. The nursery was literally 5 minutes up the road. It was perfect. I registered my son, and I just have to say, I think that was the worst experience of my life, and probably worse for my little boy. When we went through the admissions, I did explain to the owner of the nursery lead, that, my son is currently non-speaking, he is known to bite, and he is awaiting an autism diagnosis. So she had explained to me that, she's got experience of this, she can write EHCP, things of that nature, she can deal with my child. So they did the settling in sessions where, they just do like an hour and then they increase it every half an hour, etc. Let's just say my son was in that nursery for, it can't be more than 2 months, and he never did more than 1 hour. It was, I can't even use the word on here to describe what it was. It was an S show. It was, I don't even know how to describe it. He went into a room with, other neurotypical children. And when I used to collect him after the hour, I was met at the door with, grim faces. Oh, your son bit a member of staff. Unfortunately, your son bit another child. He was just staying in the corner. And, as a parent listening to this, it is traumatizing. You know, you feel so much guilt and shame. And at that point, I contacted my health visitor. So the original one that made the referral for my son to be diagnosed, she had retired, but she had sort of referred me onto a colleague. And I contacted her and I said, I really don't think my son should go to nursery. You know, he's not coping. The nursery leader said to me, I'm not increasing his hours. You know, we can't give him more than an hour a day. You know, and I think just that tone from her, it will sit with me for a very long time. And when I made that call to the health visitor, she said to me, Karina, absolutely no way. Your son is entitled to an education. Why should he be sitting at home when he should be at nursery learning? And she said to me, Karina, that maybe that's not the right environment for him. Maybe that's not the right nursery. And again, I'm in a position where I'm feeling a bit naive because I'm thinking, okay, well, he's just going to nursery. Like, what do I do? And she said to me, you know, in your local town, there's 5 or 6 what they call resourced nurseries. So they're specialist nurseries designed for children that have additional needs. From that day, I haven't looked back. From that day, I've educated myself. I speak to professionals. I ask so many questions. It's the introvert that some people may have known prior to this journey in my life is sometimes she's there, but actually when it comes to my son, nowhere to be seen. That introvert is nowhere to be seen. I ask more questions than anybody else that I know because I want to make sure that I'm not going through that traumatic experience again. From that point, I registered my son into a resourced nursery. He was in a class of no more than 6 to 7 children. He got what he needed. He was settled and he was happy. And that's why I'm so passionate. I'm so passionate about speaking to other parents and carers because I don't want you to go through what I had to go through. I don't want your child to experience anything like that. You know, let's work together. You know, anything that you want to ask, I'm more than happy because I have been there. I've faced the trauma. You know, I've had the nights where I'm crying and no one understands. I've had the periods where my son wouldn't go with anybody else. I mean, even now he's very attached. I've had times when, you know, he's awake at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm thinking, why are you awake at 2 o'clock in the morning? It's like, you only went to bed at like 9 o'clock. Your stomach is full. We did the bedtime routine. And then, you know, I'm singing to him, I'm talking to him, I'm scrolling through, you know, Google trying to find answers. And that journey has led me on to where I am today. You know, this story is just the beginning, but there's a side to autism that most people never talk about. And it's not all about, you know, the superpowers and the positivity. There are challenges, real challenges. I encourage you to watch the next video because you need to see the real challenges that parents like us face every single day. So click on the video that you see on your screen and I'll see you there.